everyone, we're here at Cumulus Networks. I'm here with Jason Martin. Jason, you're VP of Customer Experience, so customers are definitely getting an experience, but what is the product? What's the solution that you guys are pushing out there?
So Cumulus Networks makes a Linux distribution that runs on bare metal switches. We're essentially doing to the networking market what happened to the compute market back in the late 90s when you had the rise of x86, Intel. People started buying VMware and Linux, and they basically redesigned their data centers from the ground up using open systems instead of large, proprietary, expensive software and hardware products.
Yes, it's a little bit like NSX is upgrading networking on hypervisors. You guys are doing that with the software on the physical layer.
Exactly, and we work quite closely with VMware. We're an NSX partner. To obviously run NSX, you need the underlay. You need a network to run on, and that's what we provide.
Okay, and I mean, you're talking about physical switches. Can it be any switch? Is it Dell, Cisco? What type of switches are customer looking for when they want to run your software on top of it?
Yeah, so we currently have 5 hardware partners. We've got Dell, Quanta, Acton Edge Core, Celestica Penguin, and Agama Delta Networks.
Right.
And essentially, they come in 1 gig, 10 gig, and 40 gig form factors. So you can mix and match the hardware, and obviously the software layer stays consistent.
And then one of the questions that I can assume customers are asking you, so I buy a switch, normally I can use that, I now buy Cumulus Networks on top of it. Does that incur extra cost? Where do I get the benefit? Why should I go for this?
Yeah, so our model is a subscription model. You basically, with the subscription, get the right to use the software and provide support with that. The benefit really comes in the CapEx. That's the most obvious benefit. It kind of reminds me of VMware in the early days. That's where we worked together, obviously. I think that's what initially draws customers to it, is there's a tremendous CapEx savings. It's easy to quantify. It's anywhere from kind of 3 to 6x, depending on what form factor we're talking about. And really that's as a result of the fact that you have a fungible form factor on the hardware side. The software is priced based on platforms, so 1 gig, 10 gig, and 40 gig ranges from $399 a year to $1299 a year.
Okay, so that should be very manageable. I mean, when people are upgrading their networks, they're used to massive projects, so money is usually always a factor in there. But that sounds really good, though. I see we're sitting at a demo booth here, so I'm sure you guys can show something as well, right?
Let me just add one other thing besides the CapEx. I think OpEx is the huge thing. Once customers get it, and they start using it, they realize really most of the savings come in the operational side. Our largest customer now has over 20,000 switches in production.
Oh, wow.
And they saw pretty significant advantage on the network operations staff. It's about a 10-to-1 savings.
Yeah, because you can use your traditional Linux skills and everything else that's possible within Linux to operate things and do it just much more efficiently, I guess.
Exactly, you have a converged tool chain. So all the stuff that's been developed over the last decade and a half on the server side is now completely applicable. Whether that's automation tools, measurement monitoring tools, security, whatever it is, it's all usable. You can use the same thing on the server side as you can on the networking side.
Yeah. And knowledge is already available because it's a Linux platform. You don't need to reskill many people. The knowledge is probably already there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So about a demo, I think Nat, can you come in and?
Yeah, we'll invite Nat up here to.
So Nat, we're at the demo booth. Can you explain a little bit about the setup that you have here?
Cool. So we've got 4 switches in our lab in a spine leaf. So we've got 2 spine switches running Cumulus Linux and 2 leaf switches. In this environment, we've also got a Puppet Master. So we automate the switches as if they're servers. So I can show you the Puppet Master quickly here. So this is just an Ubuntu box that's running Puppet.
And does it have to be Puppet, or could it be Chef or any other automation tool?
This in this case, it could be any automation tool. We're just a variety of Debian. So you can automate the OS using Ansible or Chef, CF Engine or Salt, or you could write some crafty bash script yourself. You can do it.
So full customer choice there, great.
Exactly. So we can just show you the Puppet manifest. So quickly you can see here that we've just defined the switch ports we want in this routing environment. So this is OSPF. And in this case we've also got some bridges, some switch ports that are facing the servers in some VLANs.
So you mentioned OSPF, so you're doing routing of traffic and everything else. Up to which level of networking do you go? Is it all the way up to layer 7 firewalling, for example, or is everything possible?
So on the switch, we utilize the Broadcom chipset. So at the moment, we can do OSPF and BGP. You can also do some IP tables rules or EB tables if you want to do layer 2 or layer 3 access control lists. I can show you the switches quickly. Oh. So this is a switch running Cumulus Linux. You can see it's just a normal Linux box. And the big difference with us is when you look at the interfaces that are connected, instead of just seeing the Ethernet ports that you would on a server, we have pages of ports because each switch port on the physical switch is presented as another Linux interface. And this is kind of our enabler. So
if you have a 64 port switch, then it'll be 64 interfaces here.
Exactly. And you can use the standard Linux tools for managing that. So here's some Linux bridges. So we've created 2 bridges and put 4 ports in each. And this is exactly the same way that you'd set up a VLAN on a traditional switch.
Good, so very easy. People with a little bit of networking knowledge will definitely understand this out of the box.
Yeah, just think of it as a server that's full of NICs. But the big difference is that we can root at line rate, so you can do 900 gig a second on a box, because Linux isn't actually rooting, the routing's happening in the Broadcom chipset.
Impressive. So, I mean, you're running Linux. Would people be able to run Linux type tools on the switches now?
Exactly. Any tool that you're comfortable running on Linux, say if you wanted to monitor processors with top, you can just start that up as normal. You can pick any tool you want from the Debian repo, or you can add on your own Linux tools.
Great. So what about if you guys come out with a new software version? How does an upgrade work? Is that complex? Can people do it without downtime? How does it work?
So if the customer's automated their environment, so instead of manually configuring the switches, if all your configuration is in your CMDB in Ansible or Puppet or Chef, you can just push a new OS upgrade out and then let the switch re-provision itself from scratch.
That's really nice. So even if you have a real hardware failure, you just push a new physical switch in and it'll be downloaded basically from the DB.
Exactly. So in that scenario, if you have a hardware failure on the management network in the DHCP config, you just update the MAC address of the switch, give it the same name as the previous one, and all the config will appear.
Okay, well thank you very much, Nat. That was very clear. If customers want to know more about where can they get Cumulus Networks, for example, where should they go?
Okay, so you can visit cumulusnetworks.com. Also online you can sign up for our CL101 class that happens every couple of weeks. And also you can get access to Cumulus Linux via our online workbench.
Okay, well that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.